It's live streaming.
Okay, so we should be live.
It looks
Oh.
like we are.
Under videos. Oh yeah, I see us.
Are we there? All right, so I am now going to okay, so this is the Series 2 Box Factory for the Art live stream. My name is Carol Myers. I'm the exhibition chairperson, and we're going to have, okay, so Nancy, you need to mute yourself, please.
Take this away.
The muter.
Mute.
You already get some?
All right, so let me share now. Okay. All right, so let me just get started while you all are introducing yourself. Let's see if I can get the, no, that's not going to work. Stop share. Okay, so let me start. Betsy, is there some way that we can get all the other participants to not have their video going, please? So let's start with introducing the artists, and I'd like each of you to kind of talk a little about who you are as an artist and what it is you'd like people to see when they're actually in your gallery space. So let's start with you, Joel Brussel.
Well, hi, and thank you to Carol and Betsy and the Box Factory for making this possible in this crazy age we're living in. My work is, I'm lucky enough to live about a block from the beach. And I think probably all the pictures you're going to see today, if you go through all the photographs, I'm a photographer, are shot within a few blocks of where I live. So that's a sort of special bonus pleasure I have. I am a photographer. I always like it when my work kind of ends up looking like a painting. That's sort of my goal in a way. There are a lot of photographers that want 100% accuracy, and I try and sort of steer away from that whenever possible. But as I was talking to Carol, I was a very avid rock collector at these places that I shoot photographs before I even shot a photograph. And one day I looked up instead of looking down, which is what you always do for rocks. And I just noticed incredible beauty that I'd probably seen for 20 or 30 years, but never really noticed in a strange way. And just started shooting with my iPhone, which is what I use, and posted them here and there just for the heck of it. And people really liked it and kind of caught on. And I started to realize there was some incredible beauty here. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to capture some of it, and a lot of times I can't capture any of it. But as I say in my statement, it's always a fun adventure. There's really no downside for me.
Okay, so let's do it this way. Beans, we've got the story about Joel's work. Let's look at his work real quick, and then we will look at Wesley's work. So I'm going to go through your images.
Okay. That image was actually taken about 2 or 3 months ago. And the boulders in these shots were actually thrown in the water to prevent some of the severe erosion that's going on here. And people are in danger of losing their properties. And the flip side for me is it sort of created all kinds of interesting photographic possibilities because as folks know, Lake Michigan's not so famous for its boulders. So a lot of the work I shoot is a result of this man-made, some people say an eyesore, to prevent serious erosion. And all these, I think all these are shot at sunset. So this is why my
Okay.
title for my show is Savage Sunset.
Okay, so let's just take a look at these.
I like whenever possible to try and get some motion in the picture, and it's a little bit of a crapshoot whether you get it, but sometimes you're just lucky.
Okay,
That's a little bit an older image, was shot a winter or two ago, and this winter wasn't so severe, but you can get some interesting colors and sort of surreal ice formations.
I like The Winter Has Spoken for the title.
This was shot maybe 3 weeks ago. And whenever I'm kind of a weather junkie, whenever I see any kind of storms on the radar, I love to get to the beach because it adds a sort of natural drama to things, and changes very fast. Sometimes you have windows of 2, 3, 4 minutes before the clouds have changed and the storm has passed. And that one, I was sort of in the right place to the right time, I think. I like to shoot in the water whenever possible. Obviously, it's a little cold now, but when it gets warmer, I get in the water as much as I can and try and shoot from that perspective. And that was also a kind of the remnants of the storm. Again, we're at the same boulders. And when it's warm enough, I like to get as close as I can. And a good picture I'll end up getting sopped from. And that one I did. But the motion part of it, I always think adds a lot. And I honestly can't say, oh, I saw this specifically. I had some sort of inkling, and then they kind of let the camera and the technology hopefully do the rest. Again, this one was shot maybe a month or two ago. Same set of rocks, as you probably notice. And I don't think it was necessarily a storm, but the colors at that particular moment were pretty dramatic. This again was kind of storm remnants. These are pure remnants from probably, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 years ago. But they're actually maybe 6 inches high. So shooting low and shooting from weird angles, you can often get a kind of interesting perspective.
More boulders.
Yeah, same set of boulders. There's about 6 or 7 of them, and I just noticed the other day they have changed them and put them in one giant pile. So that these days may be over, but trying whenever possible to get as much action. This was just shot on the beach, on the side of a wave, and again, there was some dramatic colors, and that's probably sort of an inadvertent time exposure. But again, a lot of what I do is just kind of quasi experimentation, and that one kind of turned out cool, I think.
Not sure where that was coming from.
Yeah.
Everyone.
I'm not sure
I don't think
either.
that was the inside of my head, but I can't be too sure.
I know. I tried to have all the
No
participants
worries.
mute. Anyone who's joining, please make sure you're muted so that we can hear the artist speak.
Although that was pretty entertaining. I don't know. That might be a little more entertaining than me. But
Okay.
I'm very, I don't know if the word is obsessed, but I really like trying to see the sunset through water and through waves and splashes. And so I shoot that as much as possible. A lot of times it's so abstract, you have no idea what's going on, but I think that one kind of worked. And again, this is sort of the clouds up there where it's sort of the remnants left over from a storm. And that's kind of a theme of mine, I think, is to have sort of frothy water in the foreground against a kind of somewhat hopefully dramatic sky. And that one was a little bit before sunset, but of course, Lake Michigan goes from gigantic waves to a placid pond, and it's fun to shoot both, but I'm always amazed when it's absolutely flat. You can get some really interesting dimensions in. Again, storm remnants. This is a close-up of some kind of choppy water with some strange colors behind it. And this is another one in the water and holding the camera right at water level. And I was more interested in kind of the sort of copper-like feel of the water than necessarily the sky, but I think the sky turned out okay too. And this one's from maybe 6 weeks ago, same set of rocks. It was around sunset. Again, there were sort of very low storm clouds. And a little bit closer to kind of my goal of trying to shoot something that people think may possibly be painted. Another one shot through splashes and right at sunset time to try and get the sun actually through some kind of violent water.
And I think I'm back to the beginning.
That may be the last one. That's a little bit like the,
Okay.
you're probably near the end there.
Okay.
I think that was shot actually the same time I shot the first one. There was almost like a, not an aurora borealis effect, but there was something at the after the sunset that had a kind of strange cloud dimensionality about it. Yeah, that's the beginning.
Okay, there's the beginning. Okay.
So if there's any questions or anything, glad to take a shot at answering.
Is anybody on Facebook having anything to say?
No, I haven't gotten anything yet.
Okay. All righty.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank you.
sharing your work.
No, sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to show it.
Okay. So shall we do Wesley next? Wesley
Yeah.
DeVries.
Hello, hello.
Hey, we can hear you. So tell us about you.
There's some noise.
Okay. Oh,
Anyways, I start out paintings kind of with a quick alla prima, almost a blind contour drawing.
Carol.
I want shapes, I want movement, I want texture in these paintings. And a lot of times what I start out with can be totally different farther into the painting. And some of the aspects of the original drawing and shapes are still in the painting and other times they're not. I kind of go where the canvas takes me on these. I don't necessarily have a finished product in mind, like one of them is called compost bin, and I didn't really intend it to be that way, and it's more fun that way when it turned out, and just as a little flower in there and that kind of thing. But those are the kind of things I want a vocal point, but then again, I want the eye to move around the canvas a lot, and there's a lot more to see if you keep looking at it. It's the type of painting that I want to have people look at once and then look at again and again and just see something different in it every time.
So let's take a look at these.
This one, I started this a long time ago. It's one of my favorites, but it's when I first started to do abstract. I started in watercolor years ago, and I just found acrylic more fun because my next idea could be on the canvas right away. And something like this was it just hit me, like it just really, it's solid, but yet it's got that scratched paint look, and it's beautiful on the wall. Just reminded me of like some old patinaed surface, and that one on that one. This one is cuttings. Now lately, more than painting, I've been in the garden where my wife has got everything just sew and everything. And it's just like, what was my mind on for all this time during COVID lockdown and everything? It was gardening. And somehow the paintings turned out to be more or less everything to do with a garden. This one is called cutting. My wife will, it's like a cutting off a forsythia bush or what you see in a garden center, just the cuttings, but something that people would put in water and it would root and then plant later. This is more of like what you'd see at the garden center or some small garden shop kind of thing in the back. It's just got a lot of texture to it. A lot of my paintings do have texture. I use a lot of gel mediums for this. And when I scrape, sometimes the bottom colors come out like on this one. The original paint from the first swipe of the card or whatever I use for putting the paint on the canvas. So you'll see the lower layers and the upper layers on a lot on this one. This one, I just had fun with shapes. My wife calls it saturated because it's saturated with color, but it's that first, you open that shed door and it's kind of dark. There's just a little light thrown, but it's like, it's the last day of the season and you don't want to organize too much because it's too cold and you just kind of throw things in there. And that's kind of what it reminds me of. And just that little light coming through, you don't see specific shapes that at that first glance, you just kind of see it all. And that's what this one's about. This one is one of my first ones. I had so much fun with this. It was a nice smooth painting at first. And I got bored with that. So I just started to throw the orange and the red and scrape and pushed around. And a lot of people like this one. It's a good 4x4 piece. I like for people to see what they see in my paintings too. I mean, I might have a title for this one. This one is called Burning Bush, but if you see it as something different, I really appreciate that. And it doesn't have to be called what I call it. And so this one was a lot of fun in that sense. This one I had texture and shapes kind of mixed in. You'd have to really see a lot of my paintings more up close, like all the ones you just saw in this one. This one, it appears to have birds in it. It's still abstract to me. I like it, but it has a lot of little like cogs and nuts and bolts and like the mechanics of a garden, like the hose and you don't see that in there, but it's more like the faucet and you don't see these objects directly, but it's kind of mixed into the painting all together, but it works. This one is called I can't remember what it called.
I don't know. I got untitled with your list.
Yeah,
so
that's why I don't know. But it reminds me kind of like after a hard rain and things are kind of murky yet in the spring and things are starting to spawn and things look kind of wet and soggy, but it's full of life. And that's just kind of like the beginning of spring kind of feel to it. Now, this one is the one I call compost bin. It's very complicated looking until you see it up close, but you can see the shapes of it's like a homemade kind of compost bin. I did it kind of from a memory kind of deal where you're just throwing any board you have in the garage or shed and you're just putting it together and then in goes the compost. And you'll see the focal point on this one is kind of almost center to the right a little bit is a flower. And that flower actually kind of happened in the painting. I kind of highlighted it a little more to make it the focal point. So I had, this one was a riot to paint.
They're all a riot, aren't they?
Thank you. I need that feedback. And this one's a little more serene. I actually painted it horizontally, but it turned out more of a vertical. And I get a lot of compliments on this one too. But this one's kind of an untitled piece, but just what you see, like what I see is kind of a fence and just crazy things in the backyard kind of thing. I don't even know what to call this one. It's untitled, right?
Why it's untitled, exactly.
I was gonna say,
Now,
it looks like a birch tree.
yeah, it does. You're right. This one here is more like the back, like a corner of the garden center where things are just kind of thrown. But if you get the right garden center, it's kind of cool. They don't put things precise in a manner. It's kind of like here's some items thrown, and it's just kind of a mishmash of stuff. And it's actually more fun to scrounge through and see what you can find. Some of it's been there for a long time in that garden center and just kind of patinaed, but garden center, a lot of places just kind of keep that stuff hanging around, and that's kind of where this one comes from. You kind of see the bluebird of happiness there. He could have been a plastic figurine, or for all I know, for the garden, but again, kind of a memory thing on this one. This one was fun too. Now this one, not even garden related. It's more of a throw in to have the people see what else I kind of do. This one was a lot of fun with colors. It kind of looks like a crown roast. If you like crown roasted pork or crown roasted lamb, but I call it Crown City. And it was just kind of a fun, colorful thing. It's hard for me to describe my own paintings, trust me. I just have a lot more fun painting and a lot of enjoyment when people see what they can see in all my work.
Yeah. And we're back at the beginning.
Yeah, we're back.
All right.
And I thank you all for letting me show my paintings online here, and I hope people enjoy. And thank you so much, Carol and Betty.
Thank you for coming on, and it's not the same as being in the building, but I think
it's not.
We can share it out into the world.
Yeah, and as most artists would say, the photo doesn't do us justice.
Right, exactly.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much as
Hey,
well.
I did want to ask Wesley.
Sure.
Did I read that you use credit cards to paint?
Yeah, yes, I do. A lot of them do turn out to be works of art. Most of them turn out to be little works of art themselves. I don't know if anybody can see that.
I know.
But
Now
that's
that-
that's how a credit card turns out. And I got a lot of them. I still don't know how to market these things perfectly, but they're pretty incredible. I don't paint, people think I'm painting them, I'm painting with them, and how they turn out is pretty amazing. And that's a
your
future thing.
next, next exhibit.
That'll be my next exhibit
Yes.
when I have enough sorting time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Okay. And now for Jacqueline Baerwald. I'm sure I might have misspoken that name, but
No.
anyway. Oh, did I get
No.
it?
Yeah, you did.
Fantastic. Well, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your show.
Well, like Carol said, I'm Jacqueline Baerwald, and I have been making art, quote unquote, professionally for about a decade. I've always done drawing and crafting and that type of thing since I was a little kid, but after a bunch of struggling of trying to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life in college, I finally decided that let's be an artist because I can explore all sorts of things that way.
Okay, are you muted again, kiddo? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So I can't say I make a total living off of it, but it's something that feeds me quite a bit. And I love the opportunity to especially use symbols to convey a lot of ideas in a semi-abstract way. I can put an image or picture out there in a variety of media and allow the viewer to kind of come to their own conclusion. I just give them a bit of a starting point to launch off with. And it's very fun for me to hear people's feedback as to what they see in a particular piece or body of work. Most of my work, it spans all mediums. I do painting, drawing, collage, ceramics, mixed media, sculpture, photography, and graphic design, the whole works. It's more or less what media sounds fun at the time and can convey the idea for the body of work that I have. So in this case, it happened to be photography that was sort of collaged with wallpaper samples, and ended up being about self-worth and kind of the struggle between the head and the heart. So it's been an interesting journey, particularly with this body of work, because normally I start out with setting out a bunch of parameters and constraints and rules as to knowing what it's going to mean before I start. And this one was more like, let's scrap all that and just start with a pile of props and see what looks cool, which is very against my nature. But ironically, it turned out to have a lot of meaning and depth as well. As you'll see, there actually is a lot of, you might say, constraints as to the aesthetic of this body of work. As with Yvonne here, the first image that Carol has, you'll notice all of them are centralized around a bra, which made me uncomfortable at first. And I don't know if that does that to other people too, but it's a symbol of femininity. It's a symbol of nurturing. It's something that's iconic, but also what I had fun with was what symbolizes what's held close in your heart, but it's often unseen because we look at the exterior of people around us. We can't necessarily read what's going on in their mind or heart. And so with this particular body of work, it was more of an exploration of what is important to each one of these, quote, fictional women that I created. And the quote that accompanies each is meant to be something that is like a bit of wisdom that this woman may have accumulated through her, quote unquote, life experience that she wants to share. So, I mean, I could go through each one, but I guess I would encourage viewers to spend time reading the quotes, looking at the different paraphernalia that surrounds each of these characters, and kind of reading into their story, what they think this particular woman might have gone through or where she's at in her life, what she's struggling through, what is meaningful to her, maybe some life lessons that she's gained along the way. Some of them are much happier, some of them are a little more grim. And it was fun coming up with these characters. I will say none of them in particular are meant to mimic any person I know in my life, but was kind of a mixture of a lot of people and just from observing humanity in general. And it was just a lot of fun to play with what I had available prop wise. I love going to thrift stores, antique stores, garage sales. I mean, I even called my grandma up for some props. It was great just to see what I could bring together and tell some sort of story out of it, and hopefully be an encouragement one way or the other to those who see these, recognizing also that my story isn't done. I still struggle a lot with self-worth, with knowing really what my purpose is in life, where I'm supposed to be going, what I'm supposed to be doing, which is kind of ironic because a lot of people who look at me are like, well, you look like you have it all together. That's great. I think a lot of us have fake facades. The idea kind of behind this body of work was a bit of a way to attempt to strip that away and just be vulnerable. which wasn't particularly comfortable, but it's out there now, so it's all good. But it was kind of fun trying to exemplify women from all different stages of life and experiences. And in a few of these, like with Melindy here, and then I think maybe the next one that comes after it. And yeah, that's Melody. Those two are for those who followed my work from past years. They hearken to previous bodies of work and symbols I've used there. And so there's little nuggets and Easter eggs all throughout my work that are hopefully fun for people to look at and ruminate on and get a laugh out of or have some serious thought. So I also seem to have some strange infatuation with making very large bodies of work, which becomes really annoying to myself towards the end. But I'm always happy with it when it's done. It's just it can be a lot of work initially, and then trying to get it all finished. So I don't know, Carol, how far are we in on each of these?
We're 17 of 40.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of trying to give everybody a little bit of a look. I was fascinated. I put these up on the website to spend some time with each image and really look at what you were trying to say.
There
Well,
are,
and what I've
oh, sorry. I was going to say there are a few questions too.
Sure. And I'd love to hear them because in my little bit of, I actually haven't shown this work much prior to the show. There was maybe just a handful of people that while I was making it, I actually showed them anything of it because it was kind of like hush hush for some reason. But the few people I have showed it with, I think it's fascinating to hear their perspectives of what they read into certain pieces that I didn't even see. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So I'd be curious, Betsy, what others are asking about.
Yeah, well, so Nancy, I think maybe her question was more for viewing. She wanted to be able to read the quotes better. So that's another thing that's kind of lost in this medium of delivering this online. If she was in person, she could probably see the quotes better. But then there's a question. Oh, go ahead.
And with that, understanding the constraints the box factories have to work with, I have all of this on my website as well. And if you view the work on my website on a computer screen, you can hover over each image that you've clicked to make bigger, and it does have a caption to where you can read the quotes. Technology is just a struggle with us all right now, and so but we'll make it work one way or the other. I understand with taking photographs of photographs is difficult.
Yeah. Another question, how long did it take you to develop this project?
So it initially started with me randomly. My husband's also a photographer, and he takes a very different style of photography than me. He's much more find a photograph. I make and build and put a photograph together. And so one day he takes random pictures of all sorts of stuff. And he happened to take a picture of one of my bras with some fall leaves just at random. And I saw it with him going through editing his photos. I'm like, that's really cool. And it just sparked the idea that maybe I should go out on a limb and just see what would happen if I threw a bunch of props together. I think that was going on 3 years ago now when that started. And then probably a few days later, I just went down in my basement and found whatever props I had already and just kind of spread things out on my bed and went at it. And then from there, it was collecting a lot more props and just seeing how many of these I could come up with. It got addicting. And then you get into the editing phase and you're like, why did I make so many photographs? But, in the end, when you're all done with it, it's fun to look at them all, and I'm thankful they all exist. They sort of become like your kids, and then you realize that you want them to grow up and be teenagers and kick them out of the house. So it has been a long time in process, but I took the photographs and then they sat on my computer for about 2 years, and I did nothing with them because, frankly, I was kind of scared of it. So it was sort of, you might say divine intervention. That one evening I was thinking about, because I hadn't actually pursued showing work in a while. I had a bunch of other things going on in life, and the thought came to me again, maybe I should start showing work again. And this body of work wasn't even fully edited or done. It was just on my computer. And I thought at a whim, oh, maybe I should start showing again. And the next morning I receive an email from the box factory saying, we have a call for artists. And I'm like, okay, I think it's a sign. So I didn't even have an artist statement. I didn't really know what this work was about. So I had to spend some time trying to figure out, wait, what did I do here? And it was as much a powerful journey for me of self-reflection as much as I hope that it can be something meaningful to those who see it. So actively working on editing the photos and then framing them and collaging them with the wallpaper. The square photo with the props and the bra is photographed on a piece of wallpaper that I then actually used the physical wallpaper to be part of the matting and framing, which was kind of a fun component to it. So that's probably all happened in the last 6 to 9 months. But when I added it all up, I have probably just under 500 hours worth of time into the whole shebang, which is really kind of crazy to me. But when I look at what it is now, it's worth it. It's fun. Art is a labor of love, and it's therapeutic for me. I've healed a lot of things in my life, or been in the healing process by making work. And I hope that somehow it can speak to other people too, to share that. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah. One more question. What were your favorite places to collect items and props?
Thrift stores. Anywhere you could get stuff cheap. You got pretty creative. There was a fair number of things I could point out was stuff I just had around the house. But then going to garage sales, occasionally I'd go to an antique store because some of these characters are a bit more from an older era, as if they loved dressing up like they were some sort of Victorian classy lady or something. So some of those things I had to try sourcing from like an antique store or that type of thing. But I was surprised in how many things I like collect cool looking stuff, and then I get rid of it, and then I collect it and I get rid of it. It goes back and forth. So that's the fun thing I like though, is you can make art out of anything. It's just taking a creative mind and some imagination and how you can piece it together. It's just, do you have an idea and can you run with it? Resources will come to you. I had with other bodies of work, I've had people donate stuff to me because they're like, oh, you could use this for what you're doing there and that type of thing. And so, like I said, even with this one, I think I got a hold of my grandma. Can I borrow your hair curlers? I need them for a prop. So it comes from just about anywhere.
Another question. Did you write all the content? I'm guessing the quotes.
The quotes I did not write personally. I scrounged the internet for wisdom. I know that's dangerous. Many of the quotes were things that I either were anonymous or maybe something somebody else had written. Some of them are combined, like I took a sentence or two from different things. I may have tweaked the wording slightly, but I can't say that, no, I'm not that wise to be able just spouting off sonnets. It's just as much a collection of collaging words as it is the images.
All right. I don't have any more questions that I see. No.
Well, I would encourage everyone to spend plenty of time on the website looking at these works. They were totally fascinating to put on the website. So the whole show is pretty amazing. So thank you, artists, for Jacqueline and Wesley and Joel, who's already back to his Father's Day commitments, I believe, for coming on and sharing your work with us, and especially for sharing your work at the Box Factory. And boy, we're looking forward to having some shows in the building, but at least in this time when we're all stuck at home, we get to see wonderful art. So it's a good thing.
Appreciate you being innovative, Carol, and your team for figuring this all out, because I know it's been a lot of work for you guys too. So appreciate
Well,
that.
I just, if you look at everything that's happening in the world, when we all went home to stay safe, suddenly artists started sharing their work everywhere. And I believe art heals. And so I feel like this is just kind of a calling. So I appreciate you all sharing your work.
I like that calling.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you very much.
And we thank you.
I'm going to end the live stream here.